All right. Put this down here. Any other questions? If you're talking, I'm going to ask you to take your conversations outside, like in your administrator's room. Questions?
Oh, 15.
15. Okay. What are we looking at?
The number of yeses.
The number of yeses. So I could have 10 yeses, 5 yeses, 18 yeses.
Oh, there could be no. There could be double. It could be like twice as many yeses.
Yes. Yep. Exactly. Not the word yes. If it said this, the answer yes or no. Then I have nominal. Then you only get two things. You can either tell me yes or you can tell me no.
Or can't you say like twice as many people say like 3 times the amount of people say yes rather than no?
Well, if you're counting them, if you're adding up the number of them, then you have a ratio. But if I just said the category, yes, no, then that's just nominal. But because I'm counting the number of yeses, I can compare that. That's where that usually gets you, like the counting things. Because they'll put all this other stuff in there, and really it's just how many yeses did you have. Any other questions? Ordinals. This one, this is the best buy, this is the recommended, this is not recommended. There's no other way to judge, like I don't have a number value on this. I just have an order to this. This is good, least good, not good. Smallest, largest, medium. That's the order. That's it. That's an order. Best, recommended, and that doesn't even have to be in that order. It could be in any order, but it gives you some kind of ordering system. You say this one's like the best I could get. This is the second best I could get, depending on how they do this. If you have a first place, second place, third place, that's ordinal. It didn't tell me exactly what constituted first place, second place, but it's some kind of order to it. Okay, and interval again, temperatures and time stamps. Interval there's very few for because you can be able to subtract, but not measure in terms of twice as much, least amount, things like that. Okay, so defend your answers. Okay, levels of measurement that can be qualitative. Did you include ordinal?
Yes.
Ordinal is sometimes qualitative. It's nominal or it could be either one, depending on how they set it up. Level of measurement that's quantitative. You notice the ordinal overlaps. Okay, stop me if you have any questions. Data at the ordinal level is quantitative only. We know that's false because it is some kind of order. It could be small to large, could be recommend, do not recommend. It could be somewhat liked, somewhat disliked. And be careful of those categories because somewhat liked and least likely and most likely are very subjective to the person who's reporting that. What I think is least likely might be somebody's most likely. So you don't really know how they're viewing that. Those are categories that you try to kind of avoid unless you really have no choice, or make it so that it's quite obvious your distinction. You like, you dislike. Make it kind of obvious. If it's the least likely, that's kind of a strange one. More types of calculations can be performed on the nominal than the interval. There are no calculations performed on the nominal. Remember we talked about soccer shirts, numbers on your jersey, zip codes. Because my zip code is 122, 12553, and this is 12550, doesn't mean I have more people, doesn't mean I'm better. It's just a zip code, a label. Data at the ratio level cannot be put in order. False. Everything that moves up the levels have the attributes of the levels before them. So I can arrange the heights of people in an order. I can take meaningful differences between them. Okay, and then I can perform ratios on them. Okay. Heights of hot air balloons, quantitative. All you had to say was quantitative, qualitative. Carrying capacities of pickups, think think of what they are. A pickup truck is generally probably like in pounds. I don't know, like 800 pounds to carry, 400 pounds. So this truck can carry twice as much as the next truck. So think of what they're asking you there. The eye color, qualitative. The student IDs, qualitative. The weights of an infant at a hospital, quantitative. Species of trees, I have oaks, I have elms, I have evergreens. Okay, they're just nominals. Here's the responses. You guys asked me before. Responses on. I think with the on, they probably meant the actual, and they did. They meant the actual responses. If you had the number of responses, what would that be? Quantitative. Wait times. Times, even though they're interval, if they're minutes, they're ratio, but they're quantitative, regardless. Okay, and then we get into your levels. Okay, the years for the comedy series, this is interval. There's an order. There's an order to them. They're put in order. But they were ordinal. We still need the highest level. Interval is a higher level than ordinal. You always go for the highest. It's a number. Yes, nominal. It's an order. Yes, ordinal. The highest level, interval. We can calculate a meaningful difference. A year later, 6 years later. No, you can calculate a difference between them. If you can subtract them, that's interval. If you can't multiply by something, then it's not ratio. We can't say that this year is twice as big as this year. It doesn't work with the year numbers. In the number of years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, yes. The School of Businesses, the top 5 schools, top 5, ordinal, there's some kind of order. But the difference between them, we don't know. The numbers on a soccer jersey, nominal. Now be careful of this one. The length in seconds of a song, not the timestamp, the total time it took, how many seconds. This is ratio. I can put it in order. I can calculate this was 3 seconds longer than the other, but I can also say this one's twice as long as that one. This one's 1.5 times as long as that one. You have to go to the highest level possible. The top 5 fiction books, ordinal. Are we good so far? Good. Okay. Oops. All right.
You're gonna see 21 or...
Yeah, I realized. I think what happened didn't copyright, but we'll go over it. The times when a person checks their email. This is a timestamp. This is interval. You can put it in order. You can say from here to here, this is an hour and 2 minutes. You can calculate how many minutes. You can say this is 6 hours later, or whatever, 6 hours later, or whatever it happens to be, minutes if you want to put it in minutes or leave it in hours. You have some kind of difference between them, but you can't say this one is twice as long as the other. So when your times come in stamps like this, like a time stamp, then it's interval. If it told us that they checked their mail 12 minutes here, 6 minutes here, then that's a ratio. But the actual time stamp minutes. Number 21 has a horizontal of very, I should get my paper, very something. Can anybody read this? No. Very. It's probably in your book, so. sleep. Okay, it's very serious, somewhat serious, not too serious, not a problem, and don't know. Ordinal for number 21. This one. So it's got not a problem. You're not counting the responses. That's the y-axis. But just the labels on the x. All your y's should be ratio because that's how many you counted of them.
Always, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I will always be
In this case, yeah. Number 22, it has the number of vacations, and this one's a little tricky. It could be, oh, they actually have ordinal on this. I would not have said ordinal. I would have either said ratio or interval. But what happens is, I really am not fond of this graph. 0, 1 to 2, 3 to 4, 5 or more. If you're going to set up your x or your y, it has to be uniform. So we can't really count it as a ratio because we can't tell the difference who's the ones, who's the twos. And the interval, probably they didn't count it as an interval because they didn't make the same amount in their intervals. The 0 and the 5 or more kind of don't fit that pattern, so they went with ordinal. That's a really bad example, but I guess they go with ordinal on that one. On number 23, which you can't see at all, this is women and men. It's just your gender. You just check women, male, female, women, men. This is nominal. This is the only case like that you're going to put down here, but your y-axis is the one that counts how many male respondents, how many female respondents. So here's your count right here. This is your ratio. And your 24 is a year. 2007, 2008, 2009. I apologize if this didn't look very clear. This is an interval. I can tell the difference between years, but that's about it. But how many came in those years, that's a ratio. Okay? Does it make sense? Yeah? Okay? Items that appear on your physician's intake form, your temperature. Temperature is interval. Okay? Because you can tell the difference between 98 and 94 and 102, but one is not twice as hot as the other. Allergies. You list your allergies. You're allergic to amoxicillin. You're allergic to cats. Nominal. That's me. Yes. Ordinal. Pain is this. On a scale of 1 to 10, tell me where your pain level is. 7. Okay, so Daniel has the same, you both broke your arms. You tell me 7. I ask Daniel. Daniel tells me 5. Daniel's broken his arm before. It doesn't really hurt him that bad. So he's a 5. You're a 7. Does that mean your pain is more than his? It's just some kind of order to it. You really can't tell how much more in pain you are than him, but your pain level is a little bit higher. That's also one to be careful for because on Daniel's first time he broke his arm, it was a 10. Because it's the worst thing that ever happened. Now that he did it before, now it's 5. So, that's always a difficult one to ask someone what their pain level is. Because if this is the worst thing that's happened, it's a 10.
Yeah.
Your weight, that's a ratio. Okay? So everybody gets the difference between the 4 levels? Quantitative, qualitative? Okay. Hang on.